Well, away we go. But hey, Slotman is here and on time, so there's no reason to not showcase his run here. Not much to talk about in the beginning. If you've been watching all day, you've kind of got the rundown on the start of the game here. They don't have the dash boots yet, so there's not too many options. Also don't have any items yet other than the sword and the lantern. So everything is pretty much straightforward walking and trying to optimize walking. You can optimize it a bit by mashing diagonals when you're against a wall, or just walking diagonally in general. That's when Link is facing north or west. His walking pattern is such that he moves 2 pixels on the first frame of movement, and then 1 pixel, and then 2, and then 1, alternating frame by frame by frame. If you're facing south or east, it is the opposite of that. It starts out at 1, and then goes to 2, and then 1, and then 2. The idea is every time that you use a diagonal, it restarts your walking animation pattern. And so if you're able to press the D-pad 30 times a second, you can actually move 2, 2, 2, 2, 2, 2, 2 every single frame. Obviously, that's somewhat humanly impossible, very humanly impossible, but every little pixel helps. Each one gains about a third of a frame over not doing any type of pumping, as we call it.
Something to watch out for here as well is getting through the doors properly. You want to try to get through them without, hitting the side of it or hitting the wall. It can cost you a little bit of time there as well. And the more doors or the sides of doors that you hit or walls that you hit, it really adds up.
Right, it's a common theme in speedrunning to always try to have your character moving towards the destination. And things like bumping into objects, door frames, are making you move 0 pixels per frame towards your destination. So it's something that isn't very noticeable to the naked eye, but it does add up considerably over a speedrun. It could be a difference between a 123 and a 135. Seems like Ken has got an early single room lead. Still very much on a sub-6 pace for this first segment. All 3 competitors have dealt with the first obstacle of the segment, which is the ball and chain trooper. Looks like some of them have incurred some damage along the way, but Ken is at full health. And from here on out, it's pretty much just luck that will determine the rest of your time, other than obviously moving as quickly as you can through the rooms. There's one room in particular in the sewers that one of the rats holds a key, and the rat has 4 different ways it can go, and it can stop at different points along that way. So if it moves away from you, going to like the top left corner of the room, there's a pretty significant time loss versus any of the other options that can happen. And what you really want is for him to move down and then to the right towards you, so that he walks right at you, and you don't actually have to go very far to the left side of the room to collect a key. MaltZi opting to pick up a safety heart there. Not a bad idea. Some of these enemies can knock you around a lot. They don't do very much damage, but they sure can. You sure can get hit quite a few times here if you aren't careful.
So unfortunately there for Malibukennn, the rat did go up into the top left corner, and that's just RNG. It wastes a little bit of time.
Makes the smart decision there to just walk and catch the key instead of trying to use the boomerang. Had he tried to boomerang the key there, there's two things that could have happened. One, it could just bounce off the wall under the key. The other worst thing was a rupee had dropped over the key, and that would take priority in the boomerang collection process. So he would have actually just grabbed the rupee instead of the key. All the players making their way to the sanctuary. Get close. Just over 6 minutes for MaltZi. Looks like Slotman is right behind.
And I think they're all going to be grabbing the sank cart here.
I would imagine as much. Costs about 3 seconds to get this heart, but can really save your butt multiple times in the run, and often does not hurt you to have. There's only a few very specific situations that that the sanctuary heart can actually hurt you. This overworld segment here is another luck fest. It's either, you know, a bunch of rather uninteresting screens with not anything that can get in your way, but then they get to the Octorok screen and there's just stuff happening all over the place. You might have to pause walking or even slash or boomerang some of the enemies there. Looking like all of the players are having to do different options to continue. The entire overworld screen that Eastern is on is pretty crazy too. There's Octoroks everywhere still, and an Armo statue that gets in your way. Ken was able to deal with it very well. MaltZi deals with the statue, but gets some bad luck with an Octorok there and takes some damage. He's down to 1 heart going into Eastern Palace, so that's kind of scary. Slotman getting sniped on the way up there, but has no problem with the Armos.
So it looks like MaltZi and Ken are only about 8 seconds apart. So that's pretty close still.
This is just one of those games where any major mistake often costs large amounts of time, upwards of, you know, I think the least costly death you can have is in Skull Woods, and even that's like 40 seconds dying to Moth or something, or late in the dungeon. For the most part, you're usually looking at least a minute when you die in a dungeon, or even more on the overworld. Players making it into the dark rooms there, going pretty uneventfully, which is good. Looks like MaltZi was able to recover some health. All the way back up to full now, going into the big key room. Here there's a bit of a trick where you're supposed to kill all of the enemies in the room to make all the anti-fairies disperse from the pot, but if you make a clever use of invulnerability frames, you can actually get in there, lift up the pot, and then step on the switch all in between your alternating invulnerability frames. So Ken does it, MaltZi gets it, and we'll see how Slotman does here. I'm sure I'm, you know, too far behind, but it looks like he gets it as well.
Looks like... Oh, no, he's good. Ken was having a little bit of trouble there. The Igor was getting pretty close to him, but he made it through okay. But looks like MaltZi's having some trouble killing this Igor here. Hoping he's got both of them really close to each other.
It's just one of those rooms that falls apart when any little thing goes wrong.
Yeah, and it can fall apart pretty quickly. And then it's a disaster.
The Igors are also doing a whole heart of damage every time, and you don't have a lot of hearts to spare at the beginning here. Ken heads into Armos with full arrows, so he has a very good chance of defeating the boss and having enough arrows to be full for the next boss.
It looks like everyone is going to go for the quick kill here on Armos.
Yeah, if you manage to kill the last two Armos on the screen in quick succession, it will skip the red Armos phase, and that saves a considerable amount of time and arrows. Onto the boots. This is definitely Ken's favorite item in the game. He'll be making unique use of it all throughout the run compared to every other speedrunner of the game. So expect some excitement out of us as seasoned runners and watchers of the game. See Ken's first use of super speed here.
Is this better?
Hi.
Yep. Hello.
Hey, okay.
Hey, I think you guys are both a little bit quiet for the stream, but it's
I will
better
talk
audible
louder.
than not audible at all.
Yeah, I don't know. Sometimes this old computer just needs to be kicked around a little.
Oh, welcome. Runner Watcher has joined us here.
So, Sean, do you think we can anticipate anything strange from Ken, given his background in OEG?
Yeah, I've been talking about it quite a bit up to this point. I'm mentioning that he just got his favorite item. Once he actually does the hover, I guess I'll explain the mechanic and how it works. But we'll let the surprise linger for now. I don't believe anybody has used the hovering technique yet in the tournament, so if you're not too familiar with the game, you might be a little surprised at the technique itself.
I guess it's possible that Ivan would tonight, given how good he is at that.
Maybe, but he's also incredibly rusty. I'm unaware of any practice he's done for the tournament. I think he's going into it cold turkey here.
Andy did do some hovering yesterday.
Ah, okay, yeah. Andy was able to show it off yesterday. I was sleeping for that match.
Hankus did it too, apparently. Well, okay, so we've had our share of hovers, so people like the hover.
But if you missed it, then hopefully you'll see it again.
Oh, you'll be seeing quite a bit of it, I'm sure.
I actually think you're more likely to see it in these early stages of the tournament, because once you get into the later stages, if you have something like, say you have Zelna versus Andy, those guys aren't going to want to risk, unless it's Andy who's like, well, if I save these 7 seconds, I can, and if I don't, I'll lose. But generally, in the later stages, you won't want people taking the risk because the races will be too close. That would be my guess.
Yeah, depending on a level of confidence or necessity, I guess.
Yeah, they have quite a bit more leeway, I think, here, since they're racing people who,
are either very new or inexperienced. Yeah,
that they can take those kind of risks.
Have to be a showman.
So all the racers now are not very far off from each other. MaltZi and Slatman are a lot closer. MaltZi is now making his way over to the second part of desert, and Slatman will be there soon.
It's worth noting that Ken has his rupees already, so his advantage over MaltZi is a little bit greater than it looks. MaltZi has a nice 43 rupees there. It's pretty solid.
Really rich for not opening up any chests that contain money so far.
The dream, I've never quite achieved it. The dream is somehow getting enough drops to only pull one tree. Never quite gotten there. I've gotten to like 80 or something on a really good rupee.
Well, you'll always have to pull two, but you won't need any of the blue rupees from the first one. It's the
Right.
true dream.
Land mode, not exactly the strength of View Runner.
I think that was a 3 cycle from Ken now.
He's pretty solid.
Yeah.
Pathetically, using a little bit too much sword action. WQ once told me he likes to practice not even allowing himself to use the sword. So if you're trying to practice your arrow, don't even let yourself slash, because that's going to be a crutch. Of course, when you're actually playing, he did save. He still has 20 arrows, so that's a good aspect of using the sword so much.
And it takes twice as many sword slashes as it does arrows to kill each one, right?
Already 10 seconds behind.
See how Ken fares with flake flippers here, or how he fared. Got a little caught up on the wall, but it didn't end up being of any consequence. Taking damage while on that screen, or any screen that you did not enter fake flippers or the water from, will cause a soft block if you take damage. So we do have, I guess, backup arranged if that does happen, but it is a major time loss for sure. Looks like all three players are opting to go for it. You can just traverse the overworld for like a 6-second penalty and no risk of soft lock. MaltZi swimming around. Whoa, getting the heart rate up over here. This is a no major glitches race, meaning that some glitches are allowed. You actually just saw one by Malibukennn. That was that super speed glitch. You saw it earlier in the run as well, and you'll be seeing it quite more. There's a few ways to activate it. The one they're using now is using a spin attack and then pressing the A button the frame after releasing it. Another way to activate it is to use the hook shot or one of the medallions and press the A button on the same exact frame. That will put you into the glitched walking state. Then all you need to do is touch some stairs that you can freely walk up and down, and that gives you dash speed while walking. Just a nice thing. Also makes Death Mountain slightly easier to handle if you're able to activate the glitch early on without taking too much damage. Looks like MaltZi got roughed up a little bit, and so did Salatman.
That super speed glitch, the spin speed aspect of it, the fact that it can be activated simply with a sword spin, that you don't need certain items to activate it. In terms of the history of this game, that's actually a fairly new find. For a long time, the world record, both in no major glitches and in Masters, still didn't have it. Crystal, who is arguably like the most influential player, or I mean, not arguably, like definitely, right? Definitely the most influential player of this game. Never did a run with it. So some of the best times this game never had super speed. So it's finding that was an interesting moment. There was a lot of debate about how optimal it would be to use it in certain places. I think it ended up being used by more players and in more places than pretty much anybody anticipated. For a while, it was thought that it would be something that only top players would go for, but then people really know. Oh, here we go.
Oh.
So, Sean, you're up.
What am I up with?
Hovering.
Ah, okay, yep. So the idea with that trick is the boots always have like a priority. When you're falling down a hole, it takes 2 frames to happen. And if you're able to release the boots and then repress them after 1 blank frame in the middle, where you can use the D-pad or something to continue movement, you interrupt the falling animation and are able to continue. So you have, 34 frames before a dash begins, so you have 33 frames to compress 1 frame to release it, and then repress it for another window of frames up to 33. If you can do that successfully, you can traverse any pit in the game without falling down. And you'll see Ken use that quite a bit in the run, since he is very well practiced and has come up with some type of grip and hand, how would you say it? The way he holds his hands just happens to be very easy for him. So he'll be abusing that wherever he can to gain an extra advantage over other players.
So we saw, I missed where it happened, but I don't want Salatman to be neglected, but I don't have his stream up. I just have the Big Gaming stream to watch. He just had a death, so he's going to be falling behind a little bit behind the actual race up here.
Yeah, he had a little trouble in the beetle room. I don't think he was able to kill any of them, and they all just kind of crowded around him and tag-teamed him.
Ooh,
so.
and MaltZi. So MaltZi fell in the middle hole. You can get knocked off the side, and that loses some time, but a middle hole fall loses 40 seconds because you need to traverse 2 rooms, go through this whole transition animation.
You just fall more rooms down in the dungeon for sure.
Yeah, MaltZi is
further away.
Well, remember, I think this happened to actually all 3 of us in our races. MaltZi is a little bit on tilt now.
Salatman just fell off the side there. So now they're both pretty synced up for the Moldorm fight.
I just hope that MaltZi can kind of get his head back together. MaltZi is one of the runners who, we have a lot of new runners in this tournament, but we also have a lot of people who maybe haven't played that much in a while.
Yeah, there's a number of people who started learning the game, had no intention of going for a super competitive time, moved on to other projects, and have reappeared here just for the tournament. So it'll be interesting to see a mixture of maybe some old strategies that we don't see often. And especially with the new players, a lot of interesting backups, not knowing older strategies or not being around. So, failing their chosen strategy, they might not know a proper backup or something, being so new, not having seen the history of the game over the past 4 years. Another note about the history of this, Runner Watcher was getting into it a little bit. An unsung hero of this game is ALTTP. Is probably the main influence on the majority of the route structure that we use today. The only thing that players back in 2010 or so had to go off of were the SDA run, which was very visibly unoptimized, and Japanese runners who also do a different route from what we see here. And he was the main strat hunter in terms of what we do, and there's only been small changes since then.
My understanding is that maybe even physically in person, there were I think maybe ALTTP, Crystal, and Jaden, and maybe Cypher would go through and come up with strats. Maybe they met in person after. ALTTP is definitely, you know, in speed gaming, you have a lot of people who are very visible, but like there's no, you know, not many people know ALTTP because he doesn't stream the game, he doesn't even have a good time, but there's no reason that somebody like me should be better known than ALTTP because he came up with so many things. I just kind of play at a reasonable level. ALTTP found many things room to room.
Absolutely. Another interesting note is when he was doing this, or when he does play the game, he plays on emulator with a keyboard, and he does cross arm. So he'll use his right hand for ASWD, and his left hand for the up, down, and left and right.
He's just a crazy guy, incredibly creative. I wish that I had the brain for this game. The sorts of things that he has. I think in a lot of ways, what's great about this run is just the diversity room to room, the sorts of things we have to take care of, situations we have to deal with, the great vision.
Ken making his way to the top floors of Aghanim Tower here. The other players making their way to Aghanim Tower. Worth noting, Slotman was behind MaltZi most of the run up until Moldorm, so he was...
In fact, I think he was behind after, but maybe he also had the 100 rupees already.
Oh, right, yes. MaltZi was the only player to collect tree rupees in our who we're showcasing right now. So there you can see a little bit of a flip-flop in routing and how that can save time later.
So we're seeing...
Oh, sorry. MaltZi also went for the spin speed outside of Hera and didn't get it, so it lost him. He went a little bit behind there as well.
Yeah, that's definitely... I don't go for that spin speed. It's definitely... You saw MaltZi go for the beam and dash strat on those guards. That's a strat that a runner named Downtime Death, and then... Well, I was talking about the room after that with the...
Oh, right, yes.
So we are already thinking about... this is a great example of vision in the game and understanding many dynamics. When you dash through an enemy, they will never drop a prize. You know, a prize is like arrows or bombs or rupees, and different groups of enemies are organized such that they drop different things in different orders. So the guards in the third room of Agate Tower 2.
Stabby blue guys.
Yeah, the stabby blue guards, they have kind of knives rather than swords, almost. They're in a prize pack with a bunch of other enemies, and they drop... among those enemies are the turtles, or the mini helmosaurs on the bridge in Palace of Darkness near the hammer chest, and the pokies, the big orange kind of piled balls that you see in Turtle Rock. The aim of beaming and then dashing is to get them not to drop anything, so that you don't get to the fairy and the big magic bottle in the prize pack before Turtle Rock, because you want them to drop there. Ideally, you want to get the fairy before a certain room so that you can use beams in that room, but you certainly want to have high health. So that shows you kind of once you understand several different dynamics of the game, you can do really interesting stuff. And that's something that everybody who plays the game contributes in their own way to.
Yeah, I mean, furthermore, that beam and dash strategy is overall faster than what we did before its discovery. So, shout outs to not only just saving time, you actually get to have some foresight at a high level to make sure that you get a health and magic refill.
And it was amazing that it ended up faster. Nobody had actually anticipated that it would be faster. Guy who came up with it had actually started getting the powder again, but was just mad about how much time. Oh. Yeah, and so he came up with that, and it just turned out to be faster. And there's an even faster form of it where you only use 2 beams, but it's somewhat more precise. A mythology about Executor in the chat.
He has no start button on his controller.
Have you guys heard about this? I've been thinking about this. There's apparently new thing they did in some of the 3D Zeldas, minimal menus, like minimal pauses.
I'm not sure what you're referencing.
Basically, you switch items as few times, like literally as few times as you have to.
Like as a category?
Yeah, that's the category. So low item switching, or actually low start buttons. That I was kind of interested in to just see for this game what sort of strats we would have to come up with. Although I think in some ways it would be a less interesting. You wouldn't use the Canis Marius.
Well, yeah, it's always a goal in this game because it is always very slow to switch items. It costs what, almost 4 seconds to open and close a menu, never mind the movement within the menu. So we're always looking to remove unnecessary menus. Oftentimes a single room could be done more quickly with a different item, but it costs more time to switch to that item to do it that way.
You could also probably manipulate it with bomb drops. So for example, if you really wanted to limit the number of menus, you could let's watch this for a second. And truly,
wow, that was amazing.
He was going to do that. So we had the diagonal hover there from Malibu.
Ah, right, yeah, and you actually need to be on a specific set of pixels to clip through the railing like that. But he is certainly the only player that does that hovers to the hammer chest. I'm sure if I logged my IRC for years and years and years, I could go back and find a quote of Tampa figuring out the hover there and then saying that it's not RTA viable, but Malibukennn just smashing down barriers left and right.
The number of things in this game, as in many games, that were thought to be not RTA viable and that some intrepid runner dedicated themselves to making RTA viable is just incredible. I remember Crystal having old practice streams of pause buffered hovering, a zero cycle Argus, which we might see from Malibukennn, I'm not sure. RTA means real-time attack. Basically, colloquially, we just use RTA to mean not a tool-assisted speedrun and not pre-recorded segments. So just a run that you're doing all at once in real time.
I brought this up before, players having not been around for so long as some of the others. It's interesting that Malibukennn is able to hover there, which means he gets to have full health continuing in the dungeon. And there's a room where you would normally take a heart refill now that the hammer jump is used, and if you were to use a bomb jump there. But since he doesn't have to take any hearts of damage to get over to the hammer and still do it quickly, he could have reverted back to an old 2012 strategy that it appears he does not know. So I giggle about that a little bit.
I had Hammer Jump had just been found when I first started watching Twitch at all speedruns. In, I think, right at the end of 2012, Cypher had that run. AGDQ 2013.
Yep.
So what we're saying, just for people who are not quite getting what means, a little high context. Normally, you could get through Palace of Darkness without, but you need to take damage to do the bomb jump. You take damage from the bomb. There are strats using beams for part of the run before, but that had to be outmoded. That's just a great example of the evolution of it.
Commendable for both of the newer players to be doing the double bomb hammer jump.
Maybe we can go through the three of us. I also want to, we can just say when we started, maybe when we started watching the game and when we. And you go first, I'll go second, and then Emma.
God, I'm old. I started watching A Link to the Past back in the later half of 2011. So back then, the only players streaming this game were King Hippo 423 and Christos Owen and Krippe, who is no longer with us in terms of speed running this game. But yeah, and that was when the world record was 1 hour, 26 minutes, and 6 seconds, and the number 2 time was, I think, over 128 by a Japanese player.
By MCR, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, I started watching maybe a year after you, when the game had started to get a little more popular. Hammer Jump had just been found. That was a big thing. Crystal was no longer streaming regularly, and there was already this kind of mythology. Now that we have Zelna, it's hard to understand the mythology of Crystal, but she was a truly special speedrunner.
Yeah, I guess I'm a baby here. I just started watching Link to the Past speedruns last year around this time, actually. I think Fruit Bats was the first stream that I had stumbled upon, and he was the first one that I started watching. And then came across Blue Viper 85 recently after that. And yes, I didn't start speedrunning it until, I think, June of 2015. So I'm very, very new, always learning new things about this game.
Just a wee little baby.
A baby.
Most of the top runners when I started had maybe 131s or 132s. It was generally accepted that Crystal and Christos Owen were at, I guess, a different level from each other, but even more just a different level from everybody else. You had runners like Solace, Andy, ACMLM, I think T1, the terrible one. Addy, yeah. They were all kind of racing to get below 130 and did it very, very gradually. It was a much different kind of back then, just because, I don't know, it's very odd. The game seems just easier now. There's so much of a better understanding of it. People were really trailblazing back then. Speedrun this game.
That's right. Our gracious host here on Speed Gaming channel used to play himself as well. I think I've raced him in Master Sword before, to be quite honest.
I've raced a lot of Master Sword, so probably that's likely.
Yeah.
I learned this game, though, in 2012, so all my strats are super stale now. Plus, I haven't played it in 4 years, so I don't think I could remember even the stuff I used to know.
Well, did you do the get yourself speedrunning Master Sword? I think you did, right?
I missed it.
Oh, no.
I missed it.
Yeah, so for people who don't know, this game actually had the largest race by quite a margin, I believe, in the history of SRL. That was over a year ago now. That was last February, maybe?
Yeah, it was very early on in the year last year.
It was a get yourself speedrunning race that was just Master Sword. And 301 people joined, I believe.
It's 315, if I remember correctly.
Okay, maybe it was 301 maybe there were some kickouts, or maybe it was 301 who finished or something. And it was a really, really successful race. A lot of top runners, a lot of new people. Guy got pretty much. He started talking. He spent like 2 hours on Moldorm and became pretty incomprehensible. But I was very proud to get 7th in that race. A lot of people got 22s and 23s. Just a very successful race, and it's great to see all the viewers we have here for this.
Absolutely, that pretty much effectively broke the Speedruns Live leaderboard for the points leaderboard for this game. We still have a couple of people that are up there that don't even actively play the game, that are 1 and 2.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because
I was a big winner there, and Malibukennn was also as well. I know Ken doesn't almost ever race, so it came as a surprise to me that he joined this tournament. But yeah, we were big points winners in that race, and none of us were even top placers.
Cortex, if Fiesel's still here, he can probably answer that better than any of us. So Cortex is asking, is this, and I assume he means this sort of thing, big tournaments like this, is this going to be done in the future as well on the Speed Gaming channel and on the SM?
Sure, I think you're going to be seeing a lot of tournaments all over the place. This seems to be the rise of this year is the rise of the tournament, like this year and last year. But this is the 3rd Link to the Past tournament that's been done over the last couple of years.
Yep.
So I would guess that it's going to be a reoccurring thing.
Yeah, the other 2 Link to the Past tournaments were quite fun. There were also no major glitches tournaments. Some other games have had pretty large tournaments. I know that there was a 70-star tournament that ended up being at a pretty high level. I forget how that.
Mm-hmm.
I know that in Super Mario World we had 11 exit tournament. I forget if it was glitchless or not, and we had a very large No Star World tournament with over 100 entrants, including some very big streamers who learned the game just for that. But that tournament never finished. Once there were it just worked out that there were like 16 top players, all of whom made it to the round of 16, and none of them seemed face off against each other. Hopefully we won't have that problem with Link. But I know that there's in terms of Super Nintendo, there's a Super Metroid Any% tournament coming.
Right, yeah, as far as twitch.tv/speedgaming is concerned, you can scroll down and see a number of different tournaments that they'll be hosting here. And I know, alternatively, twitch.tv/speedrunslive will be doing some work in broadcasting matches from many different tournaments as well. Quite a few coming up in the next couple of months.
I think Mega Man X also is going to be happening in the next month, and that'll be primarily, I think, on the Speedruns Live channel, although we'll handle overflow if they have too many things to broadcast.
Sure.
I'll tell you what I like about tournaments, just as a speedrunner. I've always thought there was kind of a tension between these 2 aspects of speedrunning, one of which is like, we need to make everything really, really perfect and optimize every room and understand every little variable. And the other aspect of it is like, this is supposed to be a fun hobby where I play a video game to relax from like the rest of my life, right? So sometimes it's hard to have that much fun when you're being so perfectionist and when you're getting mad about every little mistake. But I think a tournament is a great way to kind of be competitive and push yourself, but still maintain the fun atmosphere. And I certainly hope new players are willing to try out.
So Ken making good progress here. It looks like he's just finished up Thieves Town. He's going to do the item collection phase of the Dark World, or at least the first one. So he'll be getting some money so he can afford the flippers later, and picking up the frog so he can temper his sword. Both the other competitors are in Thieves Town now. MaltZi getting bodied pretty hard already. Same with Salatman. They're both entering the dungeon at under full health, which is this is a dungeon that can easily kill you quickly in a matter of seconds in a single room. So hopefully they can pull things together here and finish the dungeon strong.
Yeah, this segment here, MaltZi pulled ahead of Slatman. Slatman was ahead of MaltZi anyway for quite a while there, and I'm wondering if it's maybe because, oh yeah, it's because MaltZi didn't grab bottle or net.
Ah, okay.
And Slatman did, yeah.
He was very close to dying the way I did in my race. Those little green things, they look like they're just bugs, but they take 2 health. Very easy to get, kind of just, they move so quickly and unpredictable.
Really, really good dash in the bombable floor room there. He
Yeah,
got out of the room like on the first frame that he exploded the floor. So, kudos to that.
That's a bad time loss. I did that in a practice a few days ago. It's a very bad time loss if you get out of that room before the floor opens up, and the floor, it takes a couple frames for the floor to open up after the bomb goes. So you need to be careful. An old strat that people used to do, people used to time it with sword slashes. You would know that better than me, Sean.
Oh, there's, I think, a large selection of visual or, automatic timing cues that people use to leave the room. Exactly what all of them might be, I'm not really sure. It's one of those things that you can kind of do whatever, as long as you're getting out of the room after the bomb explodes, but not too long. Ken making his way into Skull Woods now. MaltZi's got the gloves. Slatman's heading downstairs, or is downstairs.
Yeah, the 2 guys on the right, even though that's not the tournament match, it is an interesting match right now. The Lotman was the one who died in the Beetle Room in Hera, right? Oh, and we saw, we've got another hover here, but we see that this is a kind of a dangerous place to hover, because, he got knocked over by the Moldorm, and now we have death from MaltZi. I think this means that he's going to have to do the blind refight. I was watching Ken and...
Yeah, refighting blind is not only a penalty in time because you've died and have to go back there and try again, but at the beginning of the fight, we sort of take advantage of the fact that blind is in the center of the room when it transforms from the maiden to the boss. We're able to get through the first 3 hits of blind very quickly and very automatically. If you have to go in for the refight, blind is already transformed and at the top of the room, and you're in rough shape if you don't get back to full health, which it looks like MaltZi was able to get back to full health.
Yeah, so let's just explain that a little bit. So the normal blind fight, there's no RNG, so you can do a very set pattern. The first phase is very easy, the second phase is a little tough, and then the third phase, you have a little leeway for. The phases just meaning, not phases, cycles, because of the 3 heads that come off. So there's no RNG in that, but there's no set pattern that's figured out for the refight where you start in a different place and where blind starts in a different place. So what people often do is they get back to full health. Because sword beams do the same damage that a normal sword swipe does, you get back to full health. You can get through at least the first phase by shooting beams from the bottom of the room and not taking... There may have been somebody who used to use sword beams as a before learning the actual... Sorry if I'm talking over you guys, by the way. I'm just in...
You're good.
It's all good. I'd just like to shout out MaltZi there. Went full Toho at the end and was able to dodge all of those fireballs and not take too much damage in the final phase. So made the refight look pretty easy compared to some other players who've had a lot of trouble with it.
Okay, so we do have a development. If people are in chat, it looks like may discover the reason that
Executor showing up in the chat, and everyone's freaking out.
I love how this tournament, for some reason, this tournament is making us all dramatic about things. I think tensions are rather high because of the hype it's getting and all the viewers that it's getting and this beautiful setup that we have here. I, for one, hope that nobody's too upset about it. We see a little more collection here from Ken. He's getting the Quake Medallion, is used to open Turtle Rock. It's a while from now, but it just happened to be on the way to the flippers. Used in Sean, you were talking about route changes. One of the route improvements that America over the Japanese route, which some Japanese players still use. Japanese players used to flute to Swamp Palace. That's right after getting the flippers, so you do it as soon as you can. You have the tempered sword and the flipper, so you can do it the quick as possible.
Right. Before, I guess, a deeper frame analysis happened about the route, I'm sure the Japanese assumed that going to Swamp to get the hook shot is fast so that you can use the hook shot in Ice Palace, but it turns out that using the Whirlpool after getting the flippers ends up being less overworld travel and lets you get to Ice Palace a little bit quicker, and it saves enough time that even not having the hook shot there doesn't make up for it, and it's just better to do Swamp in the middle of Ice and Mire.
I don't actually remember what the difference is there. I used to, a long time I was thinking about if I took damage on the Ice Overworld, which sometimes you do.
We'll see Ken use the Whirlpool now, we're talking about.
Right. Okay, sorry, I thought my thing was...
And MaltZi almost falls down into the dungeon of Skull Woods, into one of the holes. It would have put him pretty far away from where he's trying to go. At that point, he would end up probably getting the Fire Rod the normal way without using this bomb jump, and it's considerably slower.
It's something like a 40-second time loss. A lot of us have done it at least once.
You do have to wait for the wall to explode there, and that's probably the main thing about it. Never mind the additional rooms.
I was gonna say, for a while I was thinking about, I took damage on the Ice Overworld about doing Swamp on the fly before Ice, just because Swamp is easier than Ice. You've already taken damage.
Yeah, I think some people still opt to, if they die to Cold Stare, they'll go and do Swamp first, and then come back for Ice.
That gives you the free magic refill. And the health refill, I guess, yeah. Let's see if we're gonna see another hover here for the Ice Palace bomb.
Oh, absolutely will.
There we go. Oh, he tried to do the double hover around the...
Did he get caught by the fire bar?
I'm not sure if he got caught by the fire bar.
I think he just fell in the hole. Just lost his footing.
Oh, right.
I think maybe he wasn't sure what he was trying to do for a second. So doing all these hovers must change up the bomb route. I'm not sure if it's actually... I mean, the bomb jumps are fairly... Hover has to be very fast. Oh, just a development in the... Oh, Slotman has a ferry. I was going to say there's going to be a lead change between Slotman and... Because Slotman has a ferry, they're actually almost exactly...
Slotman has maybe a 2 or 3 second advantage here. or lead, if you will.
So this is another really exciting. I will say, the races today have been most exciting that I've seen in the. I know that my own a few days ago with from the other end of the double race with Dark Omega was pretty good. The two of you had a good race until Palace of Dark. Certainly the last race where 3 people were all again, and it was. And we're going to be seeing more and more of that as the progresses and people get to it.
See how Ken can fare here against Cold Stare. Maybe Emma can give us a more real-time update.
He's got it. He's good. 2 hearts left, though.
Yeah, so Cold Stare got away. You want to keep Cold Stare trapped in that top right. He had trouble because he got hit by the ice and it canceled one of his sword slashes. Gave Cold Stare time to get away. So one thing we're always thinking about in this game, we use our attacks to do damage, but we also use them to alter our own position and the position of enemies. We're not manipulation, doing both of those things at the same time. Very important in a lot of early as the very first key you get in the game. Cold Stare with that strat, which is not quite the most optimal. We just want to keep Cold Stare in the corner so that he doesn't come out and keep hitting all 3 of them. Be a little scrappy. We've seen some Cold Stare deaths.
Slapman's actually on PB pace right now.
That's
Spellwood's at minus 16.3 seconds.
Nice. MaltZi slashing a bush, it seemed a little bit random, but there's quite a few bushes that we know have a 50-50 chance to drop a heart, as well as rocks that you lift. Can be a 50-50 bomb or a 50-50 heart. If you know those locations, they can save your butt in quite a few situations. So heads up play, even though he didn't luck out with getting the heart there.
That's one thing you learn about this game. You watch people and you don't always necessarily understand why they're doing what they're doing. Often, I found, I have a high opinion of myself, and well, I'm really smart, I'm gonna try this thing that's just different from what all the good players do, and maybe it'll be like really, and then something will mess up, right? And I'll suddenly understand that they put in so much work to figure out how to do it that way. It'll be a manipulation of an enemy or a manipulation of a drop, or something will spawn at a different time. Where it is. Reasons why the best doesn't mean don't explore. Just
Yeah,
something I figured out about the game, that everybody's doing things for a reason.
A big thing, I guess, is in this game, there's a lot going on in terms of how we've mathed out movement. It's really one big math problem that has variable changes due to enemy positions that you can't control. But a lot of the times, making the decision of dashing or walking is a major issue, and just a lot of stuff that isn't very noticeable to the untrained eye. So please do ask any questions in chat if you are a little unsure, like, hey, why did he do that? That seemed really like out of the way and slow or something. No problem talking about stuff like that because it happens all over the place. MaltZi there using a lot of fire rods to take out that ice elemental, and that might cause trouble later. He'll have to pay attention to his magic count and possibly pick up a drop or something along the way here. You do need full magic if you don't have half magic or bombos to melt the ice around Cold Stare. So it's really, really defeating feeling when you get to Cold Stare and then you notice you don't have all the magic that you need.
There's a couple things I want to point out. First is that, okay, MaltZi's okay on health now. MaltZi was very low on health. You don't want to be that low on health in Ice Palace because a lot of enemies do a lot of damage, and there's a lot of rooms where you can kind of just, things can go downhill really quickly, including Cold Stare. He's still low on magic. I hope he knows the magic pickups. He is behind Salotman now, so this is really heating up between the two of them. Allotment also has the net and bottle that MaltZi doesn't have. Okay, so MaltZi's getting that magic pickup. That's good. And I want to note that Malibukennn, who certainly knows the Tempered Sword Ganon fight, is doing Mire before Swamp, and I just wonder if this has something to do with some kind of hover strat that we're not used to, that we're going to see from him here in Mire. So that's something to watch out for.
So MaltZi didn't get the bomb jump there and ended up dying because he didn't have enough hearts and doesn't have a fairy, so he's gonna have to start from the beginning. And this is quite a big time loss here. Dying in Ice Palace is not a good place to die.
This is a big time loss. He's gonna have to go through all these rooms again. He hasn't. There's no rooms where he. Well, there's only one room, the conveyor room, where he already picked up a key, so he has to do a little less in that room. Generally, one of the reasons that Death and Ice is so bad is because it's very linear the way we do it with the bomb jump. So you just have to do the whole thing over again exactly the same way, which is not just time consuming, it's really annoying. And he will have to use his head a little bit because he only has one bomb left. He'll be able to pick up bombs for the Stealthers, which are guaranteed drops. Here we see the hover from Malibukennn after getting the Cane of Samaria. So let's watch Malibukennn and just see he's doing stuff a little differently than we've seen in this. These are, I mean, this is just not what we're used to. Oh, so he didn't need a key because he can hover from the one bridge to the other. That is ridiculous. Guess the hook shot just doesn't save enough time. Worth going to Swamp.
Did I miss anything? I knocked over my cup of water. Spilled it everywhere.
You missed the innovation in... Oh, and he already has the switch press too. Okay, so you missed a big... So Malibukennn did all hover strats through Mire. This really... It's very exciting to me, even though I can't hover, so I can't make use of it. But it's very cool to see somebody, not even one of the top seeds of the tournament, doing something so different. He went down and hovered off of the falling bridge after Cane of Samaria. Then, instead of using the key, instead of going through the big key door in the room with the wizards and the pots and the warp tiles, he just hovered from one bridge to another in the triple bridge room. And
Right.
he was able to skip a key, and he was also able to skip a switch press, which meant that he didn't need to do the Cane of Samaria strat, the Cane Dash strat, in that one room with the spike. I hope I got all of that. Maybe I over-explained it, but I am just always impressed with Ken and the things he does.
Yeah, it was definitely very, very interesting and very different from anything that we've seen. I mean, Andy definitely wasn't doing that much hovering.
He just seems to be more confident in it than almost anybody else.
Oh, definitely more than anybody else.
Yeah, I think he's probably, since Jaden hasn't been playing and since Zelna hasn't been working on the hover, Ivan hasn't been playing and Andy hasn't been working on the hover, Ken has got to be most accomplished in the world at the moment. So that's why he's able to do that, something that basically nobody else can right now. That's very cool to watch to me.
So it looks like all three runners are going to be doing Tempered Sword strats here, Tempered Sword Ganon. We've got Slatman in Swamp Palace right now, and MaltZi should be heading there right after this.
Yeah, MaltZi has a better PB than Salatman, but he seems to be losing time on every split, and Salatman, ever since that Hera death, seems to be gaining time on pretty much every split. So really a very solid run from Salatman. I don't know what the status with him and Executor is, but certainly if they do a re-race, I think Salatman should have the option of picking the time from this race or the time from the re-race as that actually counts for the tournament.
So, interesting note, it looks like Ken is going to Swamp now, which means that he will be getting the gold sword. And even more interesting than that is he is the highest seeded racer in this and will be the only one getting such a costly handicap. But I know he's talked, not extensively, but a bit about his discomfort with the Ganon fight, and that's probably why he's going to be opting for the gold sword here. And it's not a bad decision considering his spot in the race, how much of a lead he has. So there's no reason to do something out of your comfort zone at this point and
Definitely
risk
strange
your lead.
because he should be familiar with Tempered Ganon. You know, Tempered Ganon is definitely a big part of the No EG run, which he's so accomplished with. But this is actually something we see with a little bit like Super Scooge, who gets the gold sword in reverse boss order. Sometimes these players who are so accomplished at things that nobody else can do feel uneasy about some of the more normal things. So maybe he's just going to get the gold sword. I don't know what, I've never seen him run this category before. I don't know what his PB is in it. I don't know if he gets B. But yeah, I guess there's definitely a chance that he'll be getting. I guess they're all three in Swamp right now. Ken obviously has already done Mire, so that's it.
Ken is still a whole dungeon ahead, even though they're all in the same dungeon currently.
Don't you think?
He might not be going for gold sword as well, only because I don't know about with the hovering route in Mire if that changes the usages of the hook shot and whatnot.
Yeah, I thought maybe that meant the hook shot was obsolete. It just wasn't worth it, or maybe it changed the menuing enough. I'm just not sure. So we're gonna have to see if Sean, you know, obviously Sean is telling us that Ken has mentioned that he doesn't like the Tempered Ganon fight, so that's a reason to think he'll go for the gold sword. But there's also, none of us have thought at all about this other stuff he was doing in Mire, so he may have completely other reasons that we don't understand at all for doing Mire before Swamp. So we'll just have to see. I, for one, am on the edge of my... Well, Timon says he's going for gold sword, so... Oh, but yeah, exactly, Sean. He runs no EG. I don't understand why he would be uneasy. Emma, what do you think about, since we're on the topic of Tempered and Gold Sword, what's difficult about the switch? Is it just the Ganon fight? How hard is the Ganon fight to train for?
Yeah, I mean, I've been practicing Tempered Sword, and I think that the hardest part was definitely just the Ganon fight. I picked up Trinex pretty easily, and you know, Ganon's tower wasn't that awful. I probably died more than I would with Gold Sword, but it wasn't anything significant. But the Ganon fight was definitely a lot harder because you have to be really mindful about not falling off. Because I think it's a lot easier to fall off with Tempered Sword than it is with Gold Sword. And the fight also lasts a lot longer, and you have to be very mindful of your magic because you can run it really quickly, especially if you're missing any hits. Benefit of Gold Sword and Silver Arrows is that, you know, the fight just goes so quickly that you don't really have to pay much attention to your magic. So I found myself mostly either falling off or running out of magic.
Yeah, so I don't know if I have much to say about Argus, so I'm going to talk a little bit about the Ganon fight since we're talking about it, unless one of you wants to talk about it. Oh,
No.
okay. Yeah,
Argus is
I have
Argus.
no. I don't even do Zero Cycle, so. Well, let's see if Ken does Zero Cycle really quickly.
I mean, Swan Palace is just one of those dungeons where it's kind of like a break in the run, and you know, I kind of don't really pay attention to it much anymore. You just kind of go from room to room, get what you need to get, and you get out. There's not really a whole lot of thought involved in it.
Oh, so apparently Ken, chat is saying, and Sean's all up in that, chat is saying that Ken is low on health. Here he survives. Okay, he's good. Chat is saying that Ken uses the gold sword in no EG, using a glitch to go get it. And that must be at least a few seconds slower. Probably at least a minute slower than getting the tempered sword in no EG. I know nothing about the timing on that. But that's incredible. Nobody else does that. So it's great how, you know, some players are just very unique in the things they choose to do and not do. So I definitely hope you guys continue watching Ken throughout this tournament. Most interesting competitors, much more so than like myself. So yeah, I was just talking. Oh, go ahead, Sean.
Yeah, I was just gonna say, you know, play to your strengths no matter what they are, and if they are slow, it's still going to be less slow than playing to a not strength of yours and losing much more because of it. Mythical, you know, with the wise comment saying it is a tournament race, so you might not want to go for all the same things that you would go for, even in your own RTAs of the game.
Yeah, so we were talking about, I always say to people, you switch to tempered once you're comfortable with tempered Ganon fight, because that's really all there is to tempered, and that just takes practice. Just to explain the difference between the tempered Ganon fight and the gold sword Ganon fight. Ganon has 4 phases. In the first phase, he's swinging his trident, and you need to hit him.
Quickly before continuing on with the Ganon
this.
explanation, what he did there was, after getting the super bomb, when you leave it behind, a countdown starts, and when that timer is on 0, if you do things like screen transition or mirror on during the 0 count, the bomb will teleport to you, and it's a slight optimization on just keeping the bomb with you. You also can't dash around and things with the bomb unless you do specific glitches to make that happen. I guess I think it's if you hook shot to something and then dash, you can keep the bomb behind you, or out of a mirror, you can keep the bomb with you in a dash. That just lets you get closer to the pyramid here. But it is it's not too tight on the timing, but it certainly isn't super lenient.
And it's very dangerous because you don't have the money for another bomb. So there's a real-time loss in getting money for another bomb if you need one. Yeah, so I was talking about gold sword versus tempered sword on the Ganon fight. In the first phase, Ganon is swinging his trident, and you pretty much have just enough time. You need 12 hits on him. 12 damage points, where a spin is 2 points of damage. And you have basically just enough time to get in 12 damage points before he has a second cycle of swinging his trident and throwing his trident. The gold sword, that's very simple. It does double damage, so you can get that done very quickly. It's not hard at all to get 6 points. You have barely enough time with tempered sword. You need to train that a lot to get it consistently. Same thing on the second phase. He's summoning fire bats that he then throws around. You have basically just enough time to get hits in. And so that takes a lot of work as well. So both of those phases need a lot of work. Then in the last phase, you have a good tempered Ganon.
Sword Ganon, you need to learn the torch glitch, which is not really necessary for Golden Sword Ganon. Maybe not even all. Which keeps one torch lit indefinitely. You only light one of the torches, which allows you to defeat him faster and also saves magic. You also need to get the timing on the ends. So with the tempered sword, you can only damage Ganon. You don't have the silver arrows, so you can't shoot him. Damage him with a spin of the tempered sword right after he begins to warp from one location to work on the timing for that. The reason the reason not everybody does tempered sword is basically that 3 of the 4 phases Ganon are radically different with it. Work to get there. It's one of them. It really is the most difficult fight in the game, and probably one that most people have worked on the most and have optimized the most. Even at a pretty top level, you will see a vast difference.
Well, when it's all said and done, though, it is slow to do in a speed run. You do have to spend a good, 2 minutes going out of the way to go and pick it up. And even though it does save lots and lots of time on Ganon and then nominal amounts of time on the boss refights and the Trinix fight. But
yes, absolutely. I would say skipping the Golden Sword and staying with the Tempered Sword, once you're at a decent level on the Ganon fight, it saves about a minute at the very least. Not even at a top level on the Ganon fight with the Tempered.
Right.
It's always worth it once you're ready. I definitely recommend people who are learning this game see how they feel about the Tempered Ganon fight.
I think I'm gonna keep Gold Sword as long as I can.
Yeah, definitely there's something... Those safeties, that it's just very comfortable with them. You drop bottles and powder and the Gold Sword, you feel like you can just die at any point, and you can't. So in terms of the other 2 racers, Salatman pretty much still on PB pace. MaltZi going to be a bit behind Salatman. MaltZi is, in terms of PB, the more accomplished runner. If maybe in the end game, be able to gain some of.
Been seeing quite a bit of trouble in the Cane of Samaria pressure plate room, where you need to have the cane in order to progress in Misery Mire. And it seems like a lot of people don't know that if you place a block and align yourself against the southern wall, you can just throw the block from there and it will land on the switch and compress it for you to advance. So if anything goes wrong, it's always a good idea just to head to the bottom of the room, drop a block, and toss it, instead of trying to push the block around the pressure plate and get hit a lot by fireballs and who knows, all types of bad things.
Yeah, what Sean is saying there is absolutely the right backup for that room. You just kind of press yourself against the door and throw a block, and it'll not easy to. First of all, it's not easy to always find the plate that you're supposed to place that on, and it's also not always easy to dash past it in the optimal manner without knocking the block aside with link spawn. Those are the normal ways that you can mess up that room.
Good fight there out of Salatman. Very nice Vitreous.
You see MaltZi almost dying there.
MaltZi taking advantage of an interesting property of the powder. Some pots, or even some pots have the yellow bunny spinner there that if it hits you, it turns you into the bunny. And those can actually be powdered into fairies as well. And you don't even actually have to lift up the pot. You can just powder it with the pot down, and the fairy will pop out of it anyway. So it makes powder a bit more useful than you would first think, because you can use more than just anti-fairies to refill your health in dungeons. And Mire certainly has quite a few of those laying around. Ken deciding not to hover the Turtle Rock Pit. I was looking forward to it.
Well, he already had the Canis Samaria out, right? So it must be faster.
Right.
Still, it could roll deeper. It could roll. Pretty good fight from MaltZi there. I think that was one lightning.
Slotman making his way into Turtle Rock. MaltZi having just finished up Misery Mire, to be heading there next. And Ken is going to make his way to Ganon's Tower. We will be seeing more hovering out of Ken in Ganon's Tower. There's a couple of places where I'm sure the hover will gain time. Specifically at Moldorm 2, he won't have to switch to the hookshot before and wait for Moldorm to explode or even fight Moldorm. He can just go right on by and continue in the dungeon. And he's probably the only runner that will be doing that. I don't know if Andy had gone for it in his races, but or if anybody else will, but my guess is going to be that Ken will be the only one to do that in this tournament.
Andy did go for that. Well, he hovered. Yeah, he did go for that hover, but I don't know if he had killed Moldorm first and then went for it. He may have done that. If I forget.
Right, yeah.
Just a little background. That hover is kind of the central hover just because it's what allows you to finish the no AG run without the hookshot and therefore also without the flippers. Therefore also without the Moon Pearl. So being able to hover past Moldorm 2, which we'll see Ken do in his main category, saves, I don't know, minutes, several minutes. In this category, it saves 7 seconds. So basically, you have to be almost as good at it as Ken is to justify.
It seems like Andy was able to skip Moldorm 2, but I would gather to think that he will not be going for that in all of his races. He's probably just doing that because of his experience advantage in round 1. I think if he would play another top-seeded runner, he might choose not to do that. Or maybe he will just to make up the time. We'll have to see.
Yeah, Chad is saying also that Pincus did hover Moldorm too.
Oh, and yeah, of course, Pincus. We've been forgetting about him, and he's also a very accomplished no AG. He has a top time in that category. It is better than Ken's, I think.
It is, and Pincus is an old style. I mean, he's not an old player in terms of his time, the time he's been in the speedrun community, but he's an old style dirty practicer. If you've seen the way he learned this game and the way he learned Super Metroid, he just went very focused room by room, incredibly impressive. Just mastered things before he did them in runs, kind of the opposite of the way I do. Much more talented gamer than I. Probably one of the most talented people in speedrunning right now, in my very humble opinion. I'll be biased as well. We saw Slotman, so another tip for new players. We saw Slotman doing some safety strats on the pokey to get that key. Used the fire rod, and fire rod free ball and that arm simultaneously. So it's very safe and very fast, but top players don't do it because a spin, as long as you aim it the right way, a spin has the same effect, and you don't need to switch to the fire rod and then back to. But we're just seeing Salotman continues to the end game, and he just is continuing to MaltZi, who's going to have to struggle. He got a gold split in Mire. He's going to have to get at or near his gold splits throughout the rest of the end game if he wants. And there's the Chomp's death, so it's going to be very, very difficult for him now.
That was the second death to the chain chomps there. That was the thing, like when I was running earlier today, I had a lot of trouble, or I've had a lot of trouble in that room before, so I took it extremely slow as to not have a death there, just because it's, I mean, it's not like it's far, but it's annoying having to go through all these rooms again.
Almost died on chain chomps today too, right, Sean?
Yeah, well, I didn't almost die, but I certainly got hit twice.
There was also, was it Canis or Skarsnikis? Somebody died on Chomps. Chomps have been very, very difficult for everybody today, and it's just, that's one of those rooms that even somebody like me, I don't practice very much, but when you're starting this game, you owe it to yourself to practice a room like Chomps. It just really takes work. Yeah, just again and again, it really takes work to figure out the timing on the cane and to start to anticipate the movement of the Chomps and start to be able to do it safely and figure out what to do when you mess up.
Of course, if you have sword beams or not as well. So
yeah,
there's two different strategies you sort of want to learn in there, depending on your health.
Yes, sword beams are definitely a bit easier, I think. But it's definitely one of the... Don't have a room, unlike Super Metroid, we don't have a room called the worst room in the game, but I definitely think that the Chomps room is one of the worst in the game.
Right. Turtle Rock, the Chomps itself, they do 4 hearts of damage. You can't kill them. You can't even immobilize them. And they can, if they so choose, just get in front of the treasure chest or block your path to getting to the crystal switches. And it's not dangerous, or not just dangerous, it's annoying. They're just annoying enemies to deal with. Probably the most annoying in the game, other than maybe Dead Rocks on Death Mountain.
Yeah, that's kind of the last room that I really worry about in this run, I think would be the chain chomp room. Because it's, I mean, actually the other day I was on PB pace and went into the chain chomp room, died about 3 times in a row, and the run was over, so...
Ken for getting a key there.
Oh.
But yeah, that, so. Absolutely. There was the hover.
Yep, just
And that one we actually know exactly how many times you need to successfully hover. That's 27 frame perfect releases and represses of A there. And there's quite a few more to get to the hammer that he did earlier, and even more to do some of the stuff that he did in Mire. But yeah, essentially that is 27 frame perfects in a row.
Yep, it's there's obviously there's some leeway on how long you can hold the button, but actually not you can't hold it for that long before releasing it and repressing it. It's just an incredible accomplishment. Everything Ken has done this run, very impressive in my opinion. Obviously not getting quite as good a time as people who've been running, but just no. I hope he stays in the tournament. Lotman is having a little bit of trouble with this boomerang. Actually, a little tighter than it looks. That movement to Something gets in the way. It can cause a lot of.
Yeah, the easiest way that I found to do it is like as soon as you throw the boomerang, then hit the menu and pull out the hook shot. So the boomerang should almost be like still almost looking like it's on blink, but not removed from him yet.
The backup strat, the strat for new players. If you don't want to practice those two rooms with those two switches, you can hit them with the Canis Simone. That used to be kind of a main strat. People started to understand that boomerang stuff wasn't actually that difficult, and now basically everybody does it.
I think it was just something that wasn't thought up or explored at all until people were getting to Ganon's tower without the Canis Samaria when all the new glitches came around. And they figured out the strategy with the boomerang and the hookshot, and they said, hey, maybe this could apply to no major glitches as well, and it turned out it did.
I seem to remember in like 2013 there were like, maybe it was like Solidus only. It seemed like it was like a few of the top people used boomerang there and a few that, but I could be misremembering. And I also don't know exactly when NoEG started getting developed. I know that Crystal and maybe some other people were working on it before.
It was really Jaden who did the NoEG stuff for sure, and pioneered the category. But GG to Malibukennn, 130, 118.
Great work. I don't know how this compares to his PB, or what his PB is. Oh yeah, he said 6 BB PB. So yeah, 6 blue balls and gold sword. And still a personal best with the 130, 118, and certainly not even close to the ceiling on this kid.
Right. Yeah. I don't think he spends too much time with the no major glitches category. He likes to mess around with other categories that involve more glitches and things. Let's see what he had before this race, or at least what he has submitted to the leaderboard. Actually, I don't even think his time appears on the no major glitches leaderboard. Oh, there it is, 130, 154. So that was a 40-second, almost 40-second PB.
Very nice. It was very nice. Very good stuff from Ken. Yeah, I think it's there's just a few players who kind of get, when you make judgments about who's better than who at the game, there's a few players who get a little bit shafted by the fact that everybody uses no major glitches as the baseline. Just there's a few people who have focused much harder on some of these other categories. Definitely, this time is almost 4 minutes slower than my PB, but I don't think anybody could confidently say that I'm better at.
Looks like we're gonna have Ken in here to talk a little bit about how his run,
great,
how it went, how he feels about it.
I have a lot of questions for him. But good.
While that's happening, it looks like we have Slatman dying in the gauntlet. I think he has a fairy to. Yes, he does. So he'll be able to continue.
That's very good. He would basically lose his lead against MaltZi if he were to have died there. And just to note, Slatman is still on PB pace, so we could have. I'm so excited about all the things Ken has done, so I don't neglect the other runners. And Slatman, it could be the second PB. So if we could unmute Ken.
He is server unmuted as far as I can see.
Maybe he needs to self-unmute.
Right.
Oh, my bad, guys. Can you hear me
No
okay?
problem.
Hey, what's up?
Thank you so
GG.
much for that.
Oh, thanks,
yeah,
guys.
Great work, man.
Congratulations.
Well, thank you.
Thank you so much for all the things you showed us with that. And I just want, I think I don't know, maybe nobody else is quite as wowed as I was, but I just wanted to hear about your thought process. So you did Meyer completely differently.
Yeah, I actually he's listening right now, so I got to shout him out. My roommate, the Man Party, he actually thought of that
Nice
strat.
name. Nice
Yeah.
name.
Yeah, he actually should have beat me in the big race farm where I got all the points, but he couldn't get entered in. But anyway, he was the one that thought of that, and I've timed it out, and it's about 6 seconds faster or so if you can hover pretty well than the
Wow.
current all dungeons route. So it's a pretty good deal, and it really saves things up for me. Like, you know, getting to go into Vitreous with beams is huge. Like, I'm just so bad at the bosses.
You don't take spike damage. You don't need to hit that switch.
Yep.
It's very clean if you can do those hovers, but it's so much hovering for 6 seconds. You have to be so confident.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. I've given probably a disproportionate amount of practice to hovering compared to a lot of the other things. This was probably very evident in my run, like forgetting Helma Key and then walking against the door before the hover in Ganon's Tower was a pretty good one. I had to laugh about that.
Well, I mean, everybody has their strengths and weaknesses, but the other thing I got to ask, which I guess in its way is a weakness. So how did the tricks you do in Meyer, how did that relate to? So if you were to do Tempered Ganon, would you still do Meyer before Swamp because of menus or something?
No, I would switch up to the optimal route. The only reason I do it is for gold sword and silver arrows, because it's whatever you're saving I want to say it's not quite 30 seconds or something over doing it like the optimal route and then having to whatever flute away and do all some hinky stuff.
I remember thinking it was about 15 or 20 seconds.
Okay, yeah, that makes more sense.
But yeah, that's just incredible. I don't think we will ever get to a point where the world record does that Meyer just because
I honestly don't think it's competitive with spikes. I'm pretty sure in my timing at the very least it's like a second slower. It's mostly just for the hearts for me. It's just the peace of mind going in versus Spike Room. I mean, and Spike Room's really not that bad. It's just the fear of getting poked by the rogue Vitreous eyeball and having your fight go to poop is really it's nice to be able to alleviate that fear.
Sure. If you could as well at some point drop your tutorial on hovering in the chat, link to that so people can maybe get a little bit more in-depth info on how it all works.
Yeah, for sure.
If they're interested.
Maybe I can watch that again and finally.
I really need to update it. It's really disjointed, but I mean there is good information. You just kind of have to sift through it.
So I'm curious about this. So you've got a roommate who I'm not sure I've ever really seen in chats. So do you guys have like a Link to the Past think tank going on in there?
No, he's actually like my first running buddy. Like he used to beat the crap out of me at this game, and so I kind of, he motivated me to start playing, and then he actually is really competitive at a lot of other games too. So it kind of fell off for him, and just the general dealing with RNG part of the run is not his favorite thing. So he just races me in Master Sword every once in a while, and it's he kept me motivated initially, but I got to credit him for getting me running the game. Sorry, I was just posting that tutorial in chat. Kind of got
no problem. I want to pause for a second and note that Salotman remains on PB pace and got a nice gold split on Ganon's Tower.
Oh, awesome.
He has a great positioning for the 1+2 on Ganon. So you saw that he was able to get a double spin there in the top right corner, and that the fire bats couldn't touch him when he was in that position. So that's the easiest way to get 3 double spins in. So 3 times 2 times 2 damage is the 12 that you need for that phase. Everything is looking great for Salotman. Yeah, there's what is your PB, Emma? 140, 130, is that right?
140, 130, yeah.
Yeah, so he needs good fight here, but he got that first spin in, and now he needs Torch Glitch, and then I think he'll be okay. So Emma, as somebody who's really still developing as a player, what level do you find it's best to watch people around your level, or people at the top level, or people in the middle? Who do you benefit the most from watching?
I don't know. I watch people from all different skill levels, I guess, because you learn something different from everybody. It's nice to watch, people like you or Blunt Bunny or Zelna to pick up on different, I guess, more optimal route.
Thank you for putting me in that category.
Yeah. Yeah. But for
Totally not
people
in
like,
that category.
and I guess Sean. Okay.
I just wanted to make him feel bad.
But I think that if I want to pick up any strats for my level, something that I know that I could probably do, I usually watch people who are more around my skill level. Blue Viper 85 is actually one that I watch probably the most often. And yeah, we get a lot of strats from him.
Looks like you're getting bopped by about 20 seconds here.
Dang it.
Yeah, I always found that it was, I learned a lot, maybe the most watching people who were kind of in between me and the top runners. And maybe people down to around where their PBs were about as good as my summer bests. That always gave me a lot to learn, because the best players aren't going to need the things that we're still going to need while we're still learning. Great work by Salotman. Congrats on 2 gold splits at the end there for the nice big PB, and also a comeback.
That's always fun.
50 seconds after Hera.
Now
Maybe
I'm
we
gonna
can
have to
get.
run.
Winner
I
of
have to.
both
I have to do
races
it too.
here being PBs, so that's pretty exciting.
Maybe I think Emma and I both have to run now that the race is over.
Oh yeah, so we can.
Well, I thought you
Oh,
said
that
you have to
sucks.
run.
Yeah, well, no, I meant like.
She
I
meant
meant
run
to
the game.
again, so I can the game.
Oh, okay. I meant I have to kind
Sorry.
of. I probably have to go and be social with some people.
Oh. Yeah, no, I don't have friends or anything, so.
Oh, right. Well,
I'm just kidding.
it's probably because you're so mean all the time.
Yeah, no friends
Yeah,
here.
probably. Yeah, no, I don't have friends anywhere.
But
That's not true.
thank you guys for inviting me in. Congratulations again to Ken and Salotman. Again, Ken, for all the interesting stuff you did there, and
Oh, sure, man. Thanks for doing commentary.
good thing. Thanks for inviting me.
MaltZi, no.
Oh no.
Yeah, MaltZi took a death to Ganon there. Has to start the fight all over again. Slapman, though, yeah, he's finished. I don't know if he's gonna come in here to talk or not.
He is more than welcome to if he wants, but I'm not too. I want to say that he's one of the guys that isn't so comfortable in speaking in English, so we won't force him, of course, if it is going to make him uncomfortable.
Looks like MaltZi took another death to Ganon there.
All right, everybody, let's cheer on MaltZi for a strong finish. He's got another chance here at Ganon. It's got the red mail, so that is a thing, but he's down on fairies. I don't think... Did he go and collect one? I happened to miss it there.
I don't believe that he did.
There is a fairy nearby, but it is pretty costly to go and get, and if you are confident enough in winning, I would recommend against it. And just trying to tough out the fight.
Yeah, he's doing the rest of the fight with only 2 hearts. This is pretty dangerous. I mean, 1 hit from a fire bat and he's... Oh wait, no. Oh yeah, and he's out.
I just say, sorry, shoutouts in general to all the runners that drop gold sword before me, because that stuff is nerve-wracking. I can't imagine doing Ganon on 140 pace with the tempered sword, or ever.
Right. So it looks like Salotman is going to join us. I think you're unmuted now, so you can say hello.
Hello, greetings.
Greetings. GG.
Congratulations.
GG.
So you had a little trouble in Tower of Hera, but since then you just crushed every split.
Yeah, kind of. My light word was not that good, actually. And I died at Mothula, like I always do. But I have fairies, and so everything's alright there. Yeah, had some blue balls, but Tower of Hera is always a misery for me. hate that segment.
It just the light world in general is terrible, so nobody can blame you there.
Yeah, but it had some nice golden splits at the end.
Yeah, it's got to feel good, right?
Yeah, but had a bad Aga too. Went 5 hits on the first 2 cycles and then had like 2 cycles with no hits at all.
Oh, that's the worst when you get like the perfect first 2 cycles with the blue ball and then it just goes to pieces because, you know, everything's desynced and it's hard to manage when the longer that fight goes on.
That one tilted me.
But hey, man, you held everything together and a nice fresh PB.
Of course, I like it.
And I guess you kind of dodged a bullet here. Executor being unable to make it in time due to real life, I suppose. You were a very heavy underdog there, but now getting to go on to round 2 in winners.
I get
it's got to be a nice little bonus on top of the PB.
I don't have any updates on that because I don't know why he's not on time there.
No reason to pry, but he was able to show up a little bit late and say, sorry, real life got in the way of showing up. So,
okay.
At least he's not dead, you know?
That's a good part on that.
Right, there's always a silver lining on the dark cloud, but it's unfortunate he wasn't able to make it, but I guess not so unfortunate for you.
Well, now I have time to practice to get a better PB, because my next run is against a weaker player than Executor would have been. I think so.
Yeah, well, let's see where you're at here.
Yeah, you beat my PB, so now I'm gonna have to start running this game again.
At least I've cut someone.
Yeah, so
by about 20 seconds. So
our next races will include one of the races that will decide who you'll be facing. It's going to be between Moogie, aka Ivan, and K-Rob. Moogie, the favorite in that race. And let's see about Ken here. Where does he fall? He's going to be having to face Joe D'Amelio, a formidable opponent
Who
there.
couldn't even wait to farm me. He had to farm me in this race.
Of course, Joe is one of those guys that puts tons and tons of hours into this game.
Oh, he
practice
definitely
and
deserves
running.
it. I mean, I would feel bad. The only way I really could beat him is if there was some sort of catastrophic event, which is possible, but winning that way would just be depressing. So hopefully I can just get like 2 minutes better in the next week.
Hey, all's fair in love and A Link to the Past. So
Unfortunately, I didn't get to see the hovers from Malibukennn there, but I've listened to the commentary, so.
Oh, I'm sure you'll be able to see a race later. I don't think Ken's going to be stopping, right?
Oh, I'm pretty sure I'm done for the day.
Oh, I mean, later races.
Oh,
using
yeah,
others.
no, for sure. It'll definitely, if anything, they'll be bolder. I was a little nervous on a few of them, so I can't believe I fell on Ice Palace. That was about the weirdest way I've ever failed that one.
Oh, I actually have a question about the hammer hover. How many pixels do you have to get into the rail there?
I believe it's just one. I've always used the same one, and in my testing, it's pretty much the only one that works. It's basically where Link's, the shadow of his ear, perfectly touches the last inside black pixel of the rail, and that's the only one you have to go up on, and then you just have to get above the rail, and you're good.
Interesting. So not only is hover frame perfect in releasing and repressing the button, you also have to get to a specific pixel mid-hover, adjust the direction that you're hovering in, and get into the railing. So
yeah,
that's quite impressive, my friend.
I mean, it sounds harder than it really is, but...
Oh, please.
No, it actually, I mean, really, I think it does. It actually is a little bit easier than it sounds, simply because hover in itself is a dash buffer, and so it's a little bit easier to get a line, but yeah, it's still very difficult.
Right, yeah. I mean, I guess we sometimes are unable to correctly state the difficulty of hovering.
Yeah.
A lot of people can do it. They just don't feel comfortable to do it, in a speed run, under pressure like that. But you have a whole half of a second to keep A compressed before you release it and repress it again. So it it is a lot more lenient than just the phrase frame perfect.
Exactly. It's like every other
lends
frame
itself-
perfect or something like that, or I guess depending on how you would, when you have like up to 1 to 30 between every other frame perfect input, it's kind of hard to explain that, especially without showing someone.
Absolutely, yeah. I think the majority of us did not learn by online watching somebody.
Yeah, it was
in person queue or something.
Mm-hmm.
Being able to see the technique and then be like, oh, okay, that's how you do it. I know myself, I was never even considering the technique in a no EG speedrun. I was going and getting the flippers and the moon curl and the hook shot just to complete the run. But once I was shown how to do it, it was very easy to adapt and to get the faster route done. So it's certainly not something that isn't overcomable or learnable.
Absolutely.
And I guess another part about that, and I'm losing my train of thought here in front of 300 people. Frame perfects in general. This speed run in this game really doesn't have too much frame perfect stuff going on that you can't buffer with a menu or something. Even like a item dash is frame perfect, where you press Y and A together, but it's not a global timing event where you only have a single frame in the game once you've entered a screen to do something.
Yep.
You have infinite time to do it. It's just that you have to press those two buttons on the same frame. So you get away with using the term frame perfect, but it's not like maybe a frame perfect in a platformer,
right?
A side-scrolling
exactly
would be.
Because by that logic, spin speed is also frame perfect, but it's just like you were saying.
And you get multiple attempts at it.
Absolutely.
But hovering is a little less lenient than some of these other frame perfect things, because most of the time the pit that you're hovering over is going to drop you to a different floor and lose a lot of time if you fail it.
That's exactly the problem. It's not so much that just failing hovering, it's where you end up. The best case scenario most of the time is just taking damage and getting to start over.
Absolutely.
MaltZi looks like he's going to finish up pretty quick here, though.
He's scaring the buttons off my shirt, man. They're just hopping right off. I busted one right off right there when I went. He was very close to a fire bat. And there it is.
Yes.
He's got the big blue big dead.
GG.
GG.
Hey, thank you both for joining me here. Discussing your runs. Congratulations to both of you for getting a personal best.
Oh, thanks again.
Congratulations to MaltZi for finishing here, sticking it out even though things weren't going his way at the end there.
Yeah, I think I'll probably go ahead and step out of commentary, give the floor to other people, but I just wanted to say big shout outs to everyone that's done commentary so far this run, and Feasel for helping put all this together, and all the people involved. I mean, the Dark Magician, there's just so many people that have worked to get this going, and I just wanted to say thanks to all of them. So thanks for having me, and I'll catch you guys later.
Well, nothing to add for me. Thanks for commentating and putting up that stuff. I'm heading out, as did Malibu. So you see me next time, hopefully with a one race.
Hey, we'll be cheering you on, man. You look like you haven't quite hit your ceiling yet in terms of what you've practiced and things. So bright future ahead for you in this tournament.
I hope so. Improving helps.
Of course.
See ya again then.
Yeah, thanks for stopping in.
All right, well, with that, I think we're going to hop over to our next race, which is going to be a Blaster Master. We have a matchup between Shining Dragoon and Zero Noin. And after that, I believe we've got another 4-person Link to the Past race happening after that. And then following that, there's going to be another Blaster Master race. So there's races going on for the next 6 hours. So I hope you guys enjoy that. Give me a moment to just pop over and get the stream set up. Thanks you guys for the commentary. This was a great race. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, awesome. Thank you, Feasel.